And hello again, everybody. Welcome to another edition here of the Mass Steel Podcast, where, of course, yours truly, Charles Prodigy of Richey, as we are getting ready to count down this weekend for week number 11, as the Pittsburgh Steelers will be looking to make it 9-0 to keep going for the regular season right now. And a lot of people are predicting this team right now, little by little, expecting this team to run the table. I tell you what, I'm not so sure if I want to be one of the people here who necessarily the goal is to go perfect. Again, win the Super Bowl, which is the main objective here at the end of the day. I think at this point you do have to right now look at it and say that at the end of the day right now is that if you're the Steelers right now, it's just race to the finish right now to try and clinch everything that you can right now. First, wrap up a playoff spot by clinching the AFC North. If the Steelers are able to successful to beat the Jaguars this Sunday, then you have the Ravens who will be playing the Titans this Sunday, by the way. That'd be another key matchup, by the way. And that game will be taking place for this matchup in Baltimore, unfortunately. But I tell you what, if the Steelers are able to take care of business, and you're able to have the Ravens lose to the Titans, and if you beat the Ravens again on Thanksgiving, the division could be wrapped up by then. The only thing they would have left to do is slowly start to chip away at the number one seed in the AFC North. I mean, the AFC, I should say, excuse me. And don't forget, this Sunday, too, which should be another intriguing matchup for Steeler Nation to pay attention to, by the way, which is the Las Vegas Raiders right now. They'll be hosting the Kansas City Chiefs this Sunday. And keep in mind, the Raiders have beaten the Chiefs in Kansas City earlier in the season when you look at it. I mean, when you look at everything right now for this year, I mean, going into this matchup right now, I mean, you're trying to secure home field advantage at the end of the day for right now. As you look at it, I think the biggest thing right now for the Steelers in this one here, when you look at it, I mean, like I said, no need to rest Ben Roethlisberger just yet. I think maybe once you have to make sure you got everything wrapped up. And I understand like the point of views right now. You want to see some of your backups get some reps. You got a guy who's coming off of elbow surgery from a year ago. We already seen a brief couple of occasions where he looked like he just stung his elbow, had his knees banged up for a little bit. And I understand you want to keep this guy as healthy as all possible, but like I said, you still got a lot of stuff on the table right now to take care of at the end of the day. I mean, that's just the bottom line. That's just a fact of life right here as you truly look at it. I mean, for this week here, I mean, you don't want to ignore the other stuff right now that could be big in the long haul because – I mean, you also got to remember, too, when you look at the NFL standings right now across the board as we look at it, where we got a Thursday night game with the Seahawks and the Cardinals in Seattle. But, I mean, let's take a look at everything as far as, like, the AFC perspective is going on right now. I mean, you still got some very key matchups down the stretch for the Steelers that could be very key to pay attention to. Let's just say they happen to lose a game here. A game or two. I mean, you got an interesting matchup coming up against the Buffalo Bills, which would be a week after the Washington football team game. That'll be a Sunday night game. But, I mean, for right now, first things first, you do have to kind of gain some momentum here. Like I said, you want to make sure you avoid any trap games. I know Mike Tomlin is not buying into that. I mean, good for him. But you do want to take this opportune time. Keep Ben Roethlisberger in the lineup, but just emphasize a little bit more on the running game. I think this week you can be able to get away with the running game versus a team like the Jaguars. I mean, and the sad thing is, too, I mean, when you look at the past couple of weeks, I mean, you have both the Cowboys and I think the Bengals, I want to say, bottom of the league as far as, like, defending against the run. You got the Jaguars who are 29th defending the run, 2,555 yards. Now, the biggest question is what we're going to be looking at. Will Randy Fichtner be able to come up with a little bit more of the aggressive play calling where these guys can run uphill. I mean, that's just going to be the biggest question when we truly look at this team right here. I really feel like right now, the thing is, a guy like James Conner, he's not a guy who sweeps out normally. And I think he does better doing like a single back dive run. That's just how you're going to get probably his most value production. Now, you do have a guy like Anthony McFarland who is supposed to be advertised as far as this guy being where he could go coast to coast, but we haven't seen that yet so far. I just feel right now when you look at it, because a lot of people are praising the Steelers wide receiving corps right now. And the Steelers right now are in the top 10. I mean, when you truly look at it, I mean, for this season, I mean, when you really look at, I want to say they're ninth in yards after catch. Let's double check and take a look at that. I mean, which is pretty darn good here as we continue to look at it for right now. Going into this game here, and I mean, it's just some really fun and exciting stuff to pay attention to here. Here we go. So as far as like the receiving yards after catch, the Pittsburgh Steelers right now are 12th in that, in the 12th in the league in that, with 1,210 yards after the catch, which is averaging about 5.4 yards after yards per catch right there. So that's pretty decent right there. I like the receiver groups right here, and I think a lot of the stuff is too. I mean, when you have a running game that's struggling right now, I mean, the thing is, Matt Canada just seems to be throwing a nice little trickle in there, where you're having like your receivers using these jet sweep plays at the end of the day, and that seems to be fooling a lot of teams right there, where they could gain some yards that way. So they got many ways they could go about this here, and I feel for right now the biggest thing too. I mean, you got a good offensive line who's doing a real good job. I mean, protecting the quarterback here. I mean, which is really awesome to see at the end of the day, which I'm always going to be a big fan of. I mean, yeah, it's not doing much in the running game, but at the end of the day, it's Ben Roethlisberger and your quarterbacks. You get a sense of security that they're able to stand on their feet at the end of the day. Because right now, as far as like the Steelers, they got the second most protected sacks against. Steelers got 10 that ranks 31st, which is real good. The team that's number one as far as protecting the quarterback is in Indianapolis Colts with a guy like Phillip Rivers. I mean, so those are some key things to pay attention to right here. I mean, going into the game, I mean, yeah, the thing is, too, 7 more games figure this out. And I have a lot of trust in Tomlin that they will get this right. I like the attitude where they're at right now. I know there's a lot of mixed emotions going back and forth right now. I mean, when you see this kind of start that they haven't had ever in their franchise history, starting off this hot, doing better, 2 more wins better than the 1978 Steelers. I mean, regular season wise. The only thing is right now, I think there's a little mixed bag of feelings about this. I mean, hey, it's like, yeah, I want to see it. I mean, just so we could be like the second team in history, I mean, to go undefeated. But at the same time, too, as true as always, like we say in Chicago here, where I'm from, it does not mean a thing without the ring. That's the bottom line, end of the day here. Yeah, if you guys want to get on this conversation and join me on my social media and follow me, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Prodigy Richey, at Man of Steel CGR primarily for the Man of Steel podcast, at Man of Steel Nation on Instagram as we get ready to look into it right now. I mean, for this hot edition here of the Man of Steel podcast right now, for here's truly Charles Prodigy Richey. Got a lot of stuff to get into going to this Sunday's matchup. I mean, the Jaguars maybe a one victory team going to this contest here, 1-8. But I tell you what, there's still a thorn in the Steelers' side all the time right now. Now, I just mentioned earlier, too, that the Steelers right now, they got a chance to pull even with the Jacksonville Jaguars in the regular season. They are 12-12 versus them, 12-14 career-wise. If they're able to win this game, they'll be able to get a game over 500, and they'll be able to move a game under 500 career-wise at 13-14. Jacksonville Jaguars has been a team right now. I mean, ask Ben Rossberg at the end of the day. I mean, you remember the infamous speech he gave at the end. Maybe I don't have it anymore. I mean, back in 2017 when he was getting picked off by Jalen Ramsey, he had, I think, a pair of pick sixes in that game. They knocked him out of the playoffs in the divisional round, which they were called Sacksville at the time. I don't think this is going to be the same Sacksville as we saw before, but nonetheless, I mean, at the end of the day, too, I remember the last game they were in that place in Jacksonville. They were trailing by 16 points, was able to duke it out, and amazingly was able to come back and win that game 20-16. I think the Steelers' defense in that game, they stepped up. I mean, they definitely did a lot of things, too, to hang in there and really just whip after when you look at a guy, I mean, like who's which call it the quarterback. I think it was Blaine Gabber or Blake Bortles, excuse me, Blake Bortles right there. That was a guy who amazingly gave him some true frustrations here at the end of the day. I just feel right now when you got a chance to go ahead and correct this and just make sure you're just taking care of business, just more importantly. You want to make sure you keep adding more magic number countdown wins over your AFC North opponent, the Baltimore Ravens. And that's really what it comes down to here. Because at the end of the day, too, the only thing is the frustrating part about this is that, dude, don't forget, if the owners elect and all the executives of the NFL elect to pull in their plan B option, where they're just going to go ahead and do a 16-team playoff format, bump it up from 7 to 8 per conference, the buys be wiped out. What will the Steelers have to show for it except that you'd have to win 4 more rounds to win the Super Bowl, and you just be 20-0 all time as far as like perfect season history goes? I'm not sure if you really want to like take that risk right there. That'd be very dicey. I mean, it'd be very frustrating. But at the same time, too, as a Steelers fan myself, I think everybody has understood the risk going into the season. It is a season unlike any other, and we are definitely watching right now history in the making. But I think this is right now Mike Tomlin's biggest moment to shine, more so than ever, to bring home, I mean, his second Super Bowl ring right here. I mean, you look at a guy right here, I mean, who's done a lot of stuff, I mean, with this. And speaking of which, I mean, when you look at a guy like Mike Tomlin, too, he's number one coach of the year. Yeah, alone, I got a trivia question for all Steeler fans real quickly. There's only been one coach in Steeler history to win AP Coach of the Year. Can you name that coach right now, aside from Mike Tomlin not having won it? I'll go ahead and reveal the answer when we get ready to close this out. But when you look at a guy like Mike Tomlin, speaking of which, I mean, one of the things, too, he's always being praised about the minority coaches he's been associated with. I mean, when you look at it, I mean, which is pretty awesome in its own right. I mean, at the end of the day here, and you see what this guy has been able to deliver here. Remember, if he's able to win the Super Bowl this year, he will tie Tom Flores as the other minority coach to win Super Bowls. 2 Super Bowls. Remember, Tom Flores did it. I think he was the first wild card team in Super Bowl history to win the Super Bowl back in 1980, winning Super Bowl 15. They were able to win that one. I want to say they beat the Oilers, the Browns, the Chargers, and the Eagles. and they were able to win their second Super Bowl. Then they won it again as a LA franchise, the Los Angeles Raiders, back in Super Bowl 18, where they destroyed the Washington football team 38-9 right there, which was one of Joe Theismann's unforgettable Super Bowls. I'm sure he likes to forget. But at the end of the day, too, that's what's on the line here for Mike Thomas. Aside from being a black head coach, but a minority coach, he has got a chance to tie Tom Flores for the other coach to win 2 Super Bowls in that record. He's already got the record right now as far as like most wins among minority head coaches. I mean, right now with a 150 victories. And you had a guy like, speaking of which, in Tom Flores here, who I just mentioned a moment ago here, he has got 105 victories all time with 90 losses. Yeah, we're talking Pittsburgh Steelers heading in the Jags Bowl, and also right now the Steelers with head coach Mike Tomlin right now. As we look at it, the only other coach right now, there's only one coach in Steelers history who's won Coach of the Year. I'd like to hear your answer on that. Feel free to leave me a comment, or feel free to share this podcast right now to any of your groups right now. Again, once again, you can follow me on social media. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Prodigy Richey. Man of Steel Podcast on Twitter. It is at Man of Steel CGR, at Man of Steel Nation on Instagram as we look at it. Yeah, if you guys ever want, feel free to call into the Man of Steel Podcast. You definitely do so by dialing in. It is 312-209-2232. Again, that's 312-209-2232 here for this edition as we get ready to count down for the Week 11 matchup versus the Jaguars right now. And I know a lot of people right now, like I said, Ed Bouchette was one who written about it. Also, too, should we see Mason Rudolph get some more reps right now and pull Ben out a little bit sooner if there's going to be games way out of hand? Such in point with the Bengals game this past Sunday here. And I understand that part, but I also do understand, too, I mean, this is one of Ben Roethlisberger's coming out party games when you look at it. I mean, in this game right here, back against the Bengals, he threw for, what was it, 4 touchdown passes to 0 interceptions, 333 yards, completing 27 of 46 passes in this contest. Now, I understand that logic right there, but at the same time, too, I think the Bengals team, too, when you had a guy like Joe Burrow, you still want to make sure you pull him away. I mean, the game was still pretty close around maybe middle of the third quarter to when they started to pull away. And you started to see Mason Rudolph come in there, I think around 5 minutes left to play. A lot of people are kind of begging the question right now if a guy like Joshua Dobbs will probably get a little bit more reps. Joshua Dobbs, I think, is definitely a good, solid quarterback here. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, he's got the mobility. I think it was wonderful to see the Steelers trade for him and bring him back. I mean, to this team who went over to the Jaguars a year ago. But, I mean, you look at where he's from right now, from coming out of Tennessee. I mean, his college stats right there, too. When you take a look at this kid who's barely has gotten a fair shake, he had 53 touchdowns with 29 interceptions. He only threw a career-high 12 interceptions in his senior year back in 2016, where he threw for his career-high 2,946 yards, 8.3 yards per attempt, and he had a rating of 150.6. And you look at Tennessee right there, what they were able to do. I mean, this guy right here, I mean, he was a 3-time Pro Bowler in that time. I mean, and you look at what this guy has been able to represent right here. At the end of the day, I mean, Joshua Dobbs, brings a lot of excitement, a lot of moving around. And I really start to wonder how much Mason Rudolph is getting cold shouldered and not necessarily shafted, but I mean, just not ready to be trusted yet in that position to fill in for a guy like Ben Roethlisberger. I really do feel like there is a lot of concerns right there, his mental makeup more so. Because at the end of the day, let's not kid ourselves. This guy is not ready to take the keys to the car and drive the convertible smoothly. I mean, we seen what he did last year. I think he did all right. I mean, when you look at the games too, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, when you look at it right there, I mean, with him, I mean, aside from that, I it's been a real interesting ride. I mean, when you look at it, and at the end of the day, too, I mean, this guy right here, I think he went 5-1 last year. I mean, just only unfortunate thing he had that incident with Myles Garrett and the Browns right there. I just seemed to kind of like not handle that properly. Just going through his lawyer to handle a race allegation that was mentioned about his name, which was pretty sickening. But I still got a lot of questions on that. I'd probably say for right now, let's see what Dobbs could do. I mean, since you brought this guy back, I wouldn't mind it. I was one of the people who was for like a guy like Mason Rudolph, but Mason Rudolph has really done nothing here. I mean, I don't think he's been given a lot more room to like really run this offense comfortably late in games. So let's go ahead and look at the injury report going to this game for Week 11. 3 players did not practice going into this week so far today. Right now, you got a pair of running backs, Trey Edmonds dealing with a hamstring injury, and Jalen Samuels quadriceps. And then your last guy who did not practice was outside linebacker Jaguars Elliott. Now remember, you got Kevin Dotson and Vance McDonald on the reserve COVID-19 list for the season. I just hope right now when I'm looking at this injury report for this week's game, when we look at it, I mean, so far, I mean, on this team, when you really look at, I mean, you have Anthony McFarland, who's also dealing with an illness right now. He is questionable. No, excuse me. For Week 11, you have Anthony McFarland, who's dealing with an illness, and Jaguars Elliott. Now, so far to my knowledge, they have not tested positive for anything. It has not been revealed yet. They will have been on the COVID-19 list. That was the case. So far, that's the good news. I will say there is some good news right now as far as Mike Hilton, who did not play in last week's game versus Bengals, which I think was a wise choice. I mean, let him get a little bit more extra rest. The same guy who's been dealing with a shoulder injury. And so far, he has been a full participant all week for Wednesday and Thursday, which is a real good sign. Anthony McFarland, the guy who I did mention who had illness, he was a full participant, however. So let's keep our fingers crossed that he is going to be able to be ready to go, because right now, when you look at the running back depth chart on here, when you have a guy like Trey Edmonds and Jalen Samuels, I mean, dealing with hamstring and quadriceps, and when you really look at the running back depth on here, you really got Benny Snell. Then after Benny Snell is McFarland and them. So, I mean, you want to make sure you have them ready just in case. And you just don't want to leave anyone out. But I think you definitely want to master this running game. Mike Thomas seems to believe that, James Conner is still the guy at the end of the day. I mean, who's going to be the guy that'll lead this team as far as running game goes. We'll see how they're going to be able to get creative on the play calling side, as our promoters continue to mention here. Missy Matthews also does mention that the Steelers are tied with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for the most takeaways in the NFL with 17. They have scored 71 points off of turnovers, second most in the NFL behind Seattle with 76. Granted, that's a team that's struggling with defense. You got a guy like Russell Wilson who's putting this team on his back despite being in third place. having the battle going on tonight versus the Arizona Cardinals here on Thursday Night Football for the time being. Let's see if we get an update on that score right now. It is 13-7 Seahawks with 1:17 left to go. Get ready to go into halftime with that contest here. Also, too, what I was speaking of earlier, Judy Battista of NFL Network reported yesterday that the NFL has enforced that teams must operate under intensive COVID-19 protocol. As it was mentioned by Commissioner Roger Goodell, the upcoming holidays beginning with Thanksgiving next week will introduce new risks of exposure that we need to address now. He goes on to say, as he wrote a memo to the teams Wednesday, obtained by NFL media, because we have a highly sophisticated program of daily testing, we know when the virus enters our facilities, which underscores the importance of contact tracing and other steps to minimize close contacts within the facility. Recent experience has highlighted the importance of minimizing high-risk close contacts. On multiple occasions, we have seen individuals identified on that basis test positive within a short time. We have also seen many instances in which effective action by clubs to minimize these close contacts prevented the virus from spreading within the club and avoided players or coaches being ruled out of practice or games. Now, that's going to be a real interesting thing right there, too, right now. And I think for the team right now, I mean, with being like the intensive right now, just being for walkthroughs and practices, that's going to be very huge right there. I mean, trying to keep everybody safe. A lot of people are starting to wonder, will there be a bubble environment, which I don't think is going to happen right now when it comes to the playoffs. But let's go ahead get ready to get back to that trivia question I left you a moment ago. There's been one coach ever in the history of the Pittsburgh Steelers who's won AP Coach of the Year. Here's the answer. Bill Cowher, back in 1992. And the reason for that, a lot of these times when these guys are getting Coach of the Year, they're really doing something drastically different from the previous year, from taking mainly a losing team and turning around into a legit contender, or maybe playoff or a Super Bowl champion. I mean, the thing is with Mike Tomlin, I think he deserves to get it this year. When you saw a sneak peek what he could really do to shape this defense into his image, which he has, but the only elephant in the room, which begged the question, was how was going to be if Ben Roethlisberger was going to be back under center with the special talent around him, not just on the defense, but also the offensive weapons on receiver. So let's go ahead and get ready to get in the fair or foul right now. The only topic I got for today, fair or foul, Steelers will run the table in the regular season. I'm going to say foul on that one for right now because, if anything, I think the Steelers are going to probably get their loss with either the Ravens or the Bills, maybe both. But I do expect them. The thing is, too, you also got a game late in the season against the Colts, depending how things shape up. That could still be a game right there that the Steelers may have to reckon with at the end of the season with Phillip Rivers once again. I doubt it, but it's very well a possibility. And I want to just say thank you to all those of you joining in on the Men's Steel Podcast. Catch me on Mondays and Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. As always, leave it. No patrolling. Be rolling. Here we go, sirs. Here we go. Hey, gone.
Hey, you blink, I'll cut your eyelids off. Don't you blink. I got you. Let's go.